Okay, welcome if you're watching this on YouTube. And we're in Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. And we're looking with the problem of rest, the challenge of rest, the fight for rest. So our attention span is getting ever shorter. In 2000, apparently, the scientists, the boffins who measure these things, reckoned our attention span was 12 seconds, and it's now apparently 8 seconds, because we have all this information coming at us in very short bits on Facebook and Instagram. You just scroll through, and don't focus on anything. Just for interest's sake, apparently, I don't know how they measure this, but apparently the attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So we are losing to goldfish. Okay, that's not great. And obviously we've lost the day of rest. In 1974, actually, football started to be played. Professional football started to be played on a Sunday for a whole variety of reasons. But the real big change came in 1994 with the Sunday Trading Act, and suddenly all the shops were open. Some of us can remember the quietness on a Sunday because you couldn't go shopping. And it was actually possible to drive on the roads on a Sunday. Can you imagine that? And there's an increasing problem with rest. I mean, I just wonder if a lot of the mental health problems stem from a lack of rest, a lack of the rhythm that God has given. And one of the issues is that we get addicted to activity because the fear is, if I stop, what am I going to think about? What is going to happen? What's going to go on? And if we're wanting to engage with God, we have to stop. Because how many of you know Christianity, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. Okay? And in a relationship, you need time. If in a marriage you spend no time talking to each other, the marriage is not going to survive. And it's the same with a relationship with God. If I don't give time to it, the relationship is not going to survive. So let's have a look and see what God is saying here and what the Bible is how it helps us with this. The first thing I wanted to, I've called it the Sabbath, the nature of Sabbath. In verse 2, God finished, or literally he ceased the work he had been doing on the seventh day and rested from all his work. Now, God rested not because he was tired, okay? He ceased his work of creation, but he wasn't tired. Isaiah 28:15, God says, "Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary." Because he doesn't, we get tired, but God doesn't. And nor has he actually stopped doing anything. It's not like, there are people who think that God is like a clock, someone with a clock, and he's wound the clock up and then sits back and lets it just go. In the days when you used to wind up watches and clocks, okay, I know we don't do that anymore, but the old-fashioned ones, he is still working. Jesus says in John 5:17, "My Father is always at his work to this very day, and I too am working." So the Sabbath, the rest that God is talking about, is not inactivity, it's not doing nothing. It is, I would suggest, stopping our normal activity so we can get equipped for going back to it, and particularly, for going back to serving Jesus, building the kingdom, and so on. And it involves rest. And I'm not just talking, when I say Sabbath, I'm not just talking about Sundays, okay? I'll come on to Sunday in a minute, but the place of that. But it is the taking time to stop on a weekly basis, because we need physical rest. We need recreation. We need to emotionally recharge our batteries, doing things that give us energy. And we need renewal. We need spiritual renewal. My spirit, I need to reconnect with God. I need to have time to reconnect and to get renewed. And we need time. We need this time in one sense for our bodies and souls to get healed up from all the stuff of life. And that's how God has designed us. And what I want to say, and this is really the major thing, is that this is an amazing blessing. The Sabbath, the rest is a blessing, okay? And that's what God says. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. So he didn't actually bless every day. He blessed one day a week. So the most blessed day of the week is the day when we rest, we get refreshed, we get renewed, we get recreated. That's the most blessed day, the most blessed time. That's the time he is blessed, okay? And it's built into creation. I read an article some time ago about some enormous greenhouses, the biggest greenhouses in the country, which are in the Isle of Thanet, okay? And they built these vast greenhouses to grow organic tomatoes and peppers, really high quality stuff, and it's all a really closely controlled atmosphere, so no bugs can get in, they don't have to spray pesticides and things, and it's all, I think they call it hydroponic, where they have this, it's all sort of fed by water with minerals and all the stuff in it. But and of course they've got lots of artificial light there. But one of the things they discovered was that they always turn the lights off at night because plants have to rest. Isn't that amazing? You'd have thought they'd grow all the time. And some people think that. I gather Brighton Football Club are getting into trouble because they've got their floodlights on all night because they want the grass to grow. Actually, it's not going to be good for the grass to be having to grow all the time. Plants need to rest because God has designed, he's built rest into creation. If plants need to rest, how much more do we? And when we don't rest, okay, we wind up with the mental health problems, with illness, with emotional burnout, with spiritual death. And one of the reasons why, I sometimes read about Christians from previous generations, and you think that there was a real energy in them. And I don't always see that today. And I don't always feel it in myself. And I just wonder whether it's related to the fact that we don't have the time to rest. The blessing of Sabbath. Okay, God blessed the seventh day. And creation is designed to rest. And it is essential for our spiritual life. You see, the Jews in Jesus' day and religious people ever since have made it a burden. The Jews had all these rules. You could only walk so far and you couldn't carry stuff and all sorts of rules. And they turned what was a blessing into a burden. And Christians have done that. One of the reasons why everyone wanted to go shopping on a Sunday because like Sunday had become a burden. But God had intended it for a blessing, for a time of recreation and renewal. And I remember when I was a student, and I only became a Christian at university, so I came to know Jesus in my second term at university. And pretty early on, I decided that I would do no academic work on a Sunday. Maybe that wasn't a very difficult decision for me to make, okay? It was, but most people did work on a Sunday, but I didn't do any work, and there was no sport on a Sunday. And I remember waking up on Sunday mornings just thinking, wow, I've got a whole day. I don't have to do any work. I haven't got any sport. I haven't got any, there's no agenda. I'm free. And there was this feeling of freedom and lightness because all the normal stuff had stopped. And I had to actually organize my life. I had to organise my tutors so I didn't have essays due on a Monday morning to make life easy. So sometimes, in order to rest, we have to organise our lives. And what I want to say is, this doesn't have to be a Sunday, but we need the rhythm of on the during the 7 days of the week. We need a rhythm. We need a day when we stop and don't do the normal stuff. And so, the advantage of Sunday is that it's a time for us to be together. That's the thing about Sunday. That we meet together as a church, as God's people. And we get together and just see each other. And that should be an energy-giving thing. If church is an energy-draining thing, then we need to change how we do church. Okay? And what I know a lot of you have to work on Sundays. And some jobs you have to do on Sundays. We have to have the police, the fire service, the nurses, doctors, etc. People have to work on there has to be some work on a Sunday. It has to happen. But plenty of people have to work on a Sunday. In a sense, it's not essential. And this is just a challenge again. You may think this is, what's the word? Unreasonable. But I just wonder whether, if you're having to work on a Sunday, whether you could start praying that, asking God that you wouldn't have to work on a Sunday. Just pray about it. And it may then be an opportunity arises not to have to work on a Sunday, and you're ready for the opportunity to grab the opportunity. Does that make sense? Yes. Sometimes when we're not praying about something, an opportunity comes up, and I miss the opportunity, and afterwards I look back and think, I could have, grabbed that opportunity. And it's reminded me, So that's the thing. And I just want to say, for us on a Sunday, if you're not working, we need to avoid shopping. I know sometimes, we run out of stuff. But try and avoid that. Avoid doing emails, all that sort of stuff. It just requires, we have to fight for time to be with God, time to rest, time to renew ourselves. Okay, does that make sense? Does that make any sense? Does that seem remotely realistic? Yeah, okay. A guy once wrote to his, or rang up his spiritual mentor, this is in America, and said, how do I develop my spiritual life? He said, there was a long pause, and then the mentor said, eliminate hurry from your life. Another long pause. And then the guy said, is that all? He said, yeah, that's it. Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. He said, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. Quite a striking phrase, isn't it? Ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. That's a word for us today. If we want the blessing that God has for us, work at eliminating hurry. And then the final thing I just wanted to say from this, and this is because God is never in a hurry. The Bible does not say run with God, he says walk with God. And walking tends to be slow. And some of us, I just need to learn from the people who walk slowly. I'm going down, if you see me walk down the road, I'm normally going flat out. And sometimes I need to learn from the people who walk slowly. Okay. The final thing is the witness of the Sabbath, the witness. Let me just read from Hebrews chapter 4, verses 8 to 10. Because the Sabbath is not just about this life. The rest is not just about this life. Not just about what God has done in the past, it's what we've got in the future. Let me just read. Don't worry to turn to it. Just just listen. Okay? He is talking about getting to heaven. That's what he's talking about. And he has said, he's quoted from Psalm 95, which says, "Today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." Okay, that's a quote. And then it says, if Joshua had given them rest, Joshua was the guy who led the Israelites into the promised land. They came out of Egypt, 40 years in the wilderness under Moses, and then Joshua led them into the promised land. Okay? And it says, if Joshua had given them rest, God would not have spoken later about another day. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from his own work, just as God did from his. So his point is that there is a future rest outside of this world, what we often call heaven. And resting now is a witness that, in a sense, this world is not all there is, and there is a future rest. That's what it said. There is an eternal rest that's not in this life. So if this life is all I've got, then go for it 24/7, because this life is all you've got. But if this life is simply a preparation for the next life, then I'm going to do activities here which testify about them. Does that make any sense? I'm going to do stuff now which are preparing me for them. And part of that is engaging in the Sabbath rest. It points forward to heaven. Why do you stop on a Sunday? Because this world is not all there is. Because I'm looking forward to a rest. And that is a wonderful thing. You see, actually, therefore, stopping, having a Sabbath rest is not a religious activity, it's an activity of faith. And sometimes, I may not earn so much money, okay? That's a step of faith to earn less money because I'm pointing to the future. There may be a cost involved in rest. I'm not going to work so hard. I'm not going to do quite so many hours. I'm not going to kill myself. Yeah? Yeah? Be interested to, this is just a thought that's come to me, be interested to do a research project. Do people who take a day off a week, a proper day of rest, live longer than those who don't? There you go. And guys, this has convicted me because I'm not good at stopping. My wife is much better. She has Tuesdays is her day. You know, she just sits and prays and draws close to God.
With the evangelization of the nation, the two things that an evangelist will do, they'll do healing and they'll do deliverance. You'll see it in the life of Philip in Acts, I think it's in Acts chapter 3. So healing and deliverance are the signs of Jesus, because he had authority over sickness and authority over demons. So when Jesus said to the disciples, they said to him, there's a little boy who was very badly demonized, and the dad brought him to the disciples, and they couldn't get him free. And Jesus did get him free. And they said, why couldn't we get him free? He said, well, this type only comes out with prayer and fasting. But Jesus had not gone away to pray and fast and then come back to the dad. He'd already got a lifestyle stored away, him and God. And prayer and fasting is a lifestyle of intimacy where God is so big in your mind that deliverance is easy. And then when the people need Jesus to be real, you can deliver them because your God is so big in your mind because you've already had a lifestyle of prayer and fasting. So that's why who've got a deliverance ministry, And people come to me, I've done 3 this week. You know, if you're doing 3 deliverances a week, you need to have a lifestyle of rest. And you have to be with God for a day a week. It drives you mad. He's forever trying to get me to go and do something nice, and I'm locked away in the secret place, but it comes in handy. He'd like a wife that cooked.
Have a wife that prays. That's actually more important. That's more important. And, you know, keeps me thin.
You're a very good cook.
Yeah. It's just a conscious decision to slow down. We were singing earlier, Be Still for the Presence of the Lord. And it's basically, I think Psalm 40, Be still and know that I am God. We cannot know him unless we're still. And you cannot get still just like that. It sometimes can take a day to get still enough to hear him, to know the sweetness of his presence. And his presence is very sweet. It's very precious. And that calmness comes into the room, and you know his presence. And there is nothing better than that, folks. That's worth dying for. That's worth going for. That's worth sacrificing everything for. The sweetness of his presence. And the wonderful thing about it is it comes again and again and again. It's not like a temporary fix. I mean, there are guys running the marathon today. Some of them will have finished. And I've got friends running the marathon, and they have invested huge amounts of time. I asked one friend of mine, say, how many miles a week are you doing? He said, up to 70 miles a week he's running in order to get a good marathon time. You know, he's made a sacrifice, and if he's had a good time, he will be filled with joy. But it won't last, you know. But the presence of God and the joy that brings is something you can experience every day. And it beats the joy of the marathon. So I've done both. So I know what I'm talking about, guys. Okay. Let's just pray this in. We'll just stop for a moment, and then I'm going to hand back to Helen. Yeah. Father, we just want to thank you. Thank you for the blessing that you intend for us, that your purposes for us are for blessing, not for burden. Yeah. And what God has for you is a blessing, not a burden. Thank you for that. And Father, give us grace to continue with the fight for rest, the fight for Sabbath, the fight for a day when we can just slow down, stop all the normal activities, and help us as society goes the other way, help us to stand, just to be able to swim against the tide of rush and busyness and all the rest of it. Help us to swim against that tide, to stand against it, so that we might know you and be used by you. In Jesus' name. Amen.